In this video, I want to go through and discuss the content of this book, this two-page book for Writing Project 2, Step 12, structuring this final draft, integrating and citing your sources in MLA style. So first I want to go through the first page, final draft essay structure for the extended definition essay, polysemous words. In another video, I will go through the second page, integrating, citing, and documenting sources and formatting the final draft in MLA style. Page 1, final draft essay structure for an extended definition essay. This is a description of one way to structure the final draft of an essay about the various senses of a polysemous word. Please adapt this structure and these sections to your chosen word, your chosen meaning, senses, sense groups, and your supporting story examples. In a college-level thesis-driven expository essay, we have three parts: the introduction, the body or middle paragraphs, and the conclusion or the concluding paragraph. The introduction for this essay about polysemous words. Here's a guideline for to write a fully developed introductory paragraph. A fully developed introductory paragraph should lead the reader into the essay's topic and the essay's thesis, or your point about that topic. Be explicit. Say it out loud on paper. After reading the introduction, a fully developed introduction, a reader should know these things. What is your broad topic? In this case, it's polysemous words, and maybe a brief one or two sentence explanation of what the word polysemy means. Then the reader needs to know what is your narrowed topic. In this case, what is your chosen polysemous word, and perhaps why you chose it. In a few sentences, two sentences, briefly give the reader a brief overview of the word's range of meanings or senses. And then explicitly name and briefly preview in just a couple of sentences the specific senses or meanings that or meaning groups that you've chosen to investigate about this word more closely in the body of your essay. And finally, end the introduction with an explicit statement of your thesis. After doing all this research into the word, its meanings, and looking at examples, what have you learned about polysemy? What has this word's range of meanings taught you about how words work, perhaps? Or what is the most interesting thing you've learned? Many people write the introduction last. It's particularly this kind of topic, perhaps do the body paragraphs first, and once you've gone through all your points and your evidence, then come to the introduction and sum it up, gather it up all together in one place in the introduction. The middle part of an essay is called the body. The middle or body paragraphs contain and organize all the evidence that illustrates and supports the main points that work together to fully explain and convince and prove and support the essay's overall thesis. These body paragraphs can be organized into sections that each section could contain 1 to 2 to 3 paragraphs, each paragraph talking about a different particular meaning in that group of meanings. Here it says review the main points about writing body paragraphs on pages 53 to 58 in Patterns, our course textbook. Mainly that body paragraphs should do these things or be these things. Number 1, unified around a main idea or point expressed in a topic sentence. 2, be coherent. The paragraph sentences need to logically connect or cohere, literally stick together around that one point expressed in the topic sentence. 3, a well-developed body paragraph should contain enough evidence, support, and reasoning to let your reader know and understand that paragraph's main point. 4, a well-developed body paragraph usually follows a particular pattern of development. These are patterns we've seen before, such as examples, process, classification, or division, or comparing, contrasting. Perhaps your example stories will use these patterns of development also. 5, body paragraphs should clearly and explicitly, plainly, clearly support and connect with the essay's thesis, which will be in the introduction. So let's take a look at those pages and patterns. Let me get my Kindle copy of our course text. Here it is. And we go down to Chapter 3, Arrangement, down to body paragraphs. And they make the same points and elaborate on them. Body paragraphs, the middle section or body of your essay develops your thesis. The body paragraphs present the support. Examples, reasons, facts, evidence that convinces your audience that your thesis is reasonable. To do so, each body paragraph should be unified, coherent, and well developed. It should also follow a particular pattern of development and should clearly support your thesis. So the first point, each body paragraph should be unified. A paragraph is unified when each sentence relates directly to the main idea of the paragraph, and frequently, and in our case every time, the main idea of a body paragraph is stated in a topic sentence. Like a thesis statement for the whole essay, a topic sentence acts as a guidepost, making it easy for readers to follow that particular paragraph's points and discussion. And here it says, although the placement of a topic sentence depends on a writer's purpose and subject, beginning writers often make this topic sentence the first sentence of a body paragraph. And I would ask you to do that too. Put the topic sentence at the beginning of your body paragraph, each body paragraph. And make it explicit. Say it out loud. The next point, each body paragraph should be coherent. A paragraph is coherent if its sentences are smoothly and logically connected to one another. And if we look up coherent in the American Heritage Dictionary, here it is, cohere, we see that cohere means to stick or hold together in a mass that resists separation. If something is coherent, it has internal elements or parts that logically connect together to produce consistency. And if you look at the etymology, it comes from a Latin verb that literally means to cling. So something that's coherent clings, all the parts cling together. So going back to our book. So how do you maintain or create coherence? You can repeat keywords like the word that you're defining. Transitions help as well. Here's a list of transitional words and phrases that you might want to look at for ideas that you can use in your essay. And the final point about body paragraphs, each body paragraph should be well developed. A paragraph is well developed if it contains the support that readers need to understand its main idea. So you want to give full evidence. In a body paragraph, state your topic sentence. What's your main point that you want this paragraph to make? Give the evidence, and then explain the evidence. Connect the evidence with the point that it's supporting. In this paragraph, here's the particular meaning that I'm exploring. Here's what that means. Here's the definition. And here are some an example story or two that I found that explain it. Summarize a part of the story, just the part of the story that deals with the meaning. Cite the story, and then explain to the reader exactly how the story connects with this particular meaning or demonstrates that meaning of a particular meaning of the word. Going back to the book on our website, body sections. So here's some more specific guidelines for organizing the body paragraphs for an extended definition of your chosen polysemous word. Give in each body paragraph or each section, give each chosen sense or meaning of a word its own body section, and each section can have more than one paragraph. Each section could contain several paragraphs. In each section, introduce the specific sense upon which the section will focus. Begin each individual body paragraph with an explicit topic sentence that states the main point of that individual body paragraph. Illustrate the specific sense or meaning with a story or stories from newspaper or magazine articles that you found in our college library databases. Use transition phrases and words to move from one section to the next. and from one body paragraph to the next paragraph. We saw that list on page 55 in Patterns. Finally, you get the concluding paragraph, or conclusion, at the end of, after you've presented all your different meanings and all the different stories and evidence and reasoning. What can your conclusion do? What does the word conclusion mean, actually? If we go to the American Heritage Dictionary, look up conclude. Conclude means to bring something to an end, or to bring about a final agreement or settlement, or, and I think for our purposes here, to conclude means to arrive at a conclusion, a judgment, or opinion by the process of reasoning. So, in your essay, after you've gone through all of this evidence, what do you conclude? What judgment or opinion about your point, about this particular word and its meanings, or the idea of polysemy? What has all of this shown you about polysemy and the different dimensions of your chosen polysemous word, or how words work, or how examples work to show meaning? You can also look at the discussion about conclusions on pages 58 through 60 in Patterns. Let's take a look at there. This is again chapter 13, the conclusion. I'm getting a blank there. So in conclusion, better to reflect. What do you want to leave the reader with in your last paragraph? And in our book, they give some advice about things not to do in a conclusion to avoid being cliched. You don't need to end by repeating the exact words of your thesis and listing your main points. You don't need to end with an empty phrase or a cliche. You don't introduce new points or go off in new directions that diverge from your thesis at the end. And you don't need to end with an unnecessary announcement. Okay, so coming back to our page. The last thing is, as you're writing, keep in mind that those patterns of development that was covered in chapter 13. Exemplification, using examples. Well, you're going to definitely be using examples in all your example stories. Some of your stories will be using some vivid description, I'm sure. Think about that. Some of your examples may use comparison and contrast in the story itself, or you could compare and contrast. Certainly, you're comparing and contrasting different meanings of the same word. Some of your examples might deal with process, how something happens or occurs. And certainly, with the different meanings, we are classifying the different meanings, and maybe some of your example stories use classification or division. Think about synonyms, negation. Maybe what does a word mean by showing what it doesn't mean. Many of your examples are probably going to be used in enumeration, listing of something's qualities. And if etymology seems appropriate or interesting, certainly bring in the etymology. Okay? So that does it for page 1. Thank you for listening. And we'll go on to page 2.